While we're on the subject of drama, your take on the Jerry Jones training camp opening opus in Oxnard, Mike?
Well, I saw a screenshot today of him giving the finger, and I texted Clarence Hill, who posted it, to get some context, because you never know. Like, I cut myself. Where'd you cut yourself? Well, it just happens to be my middle finger. So I don't know why he was flashing the middle finger. But J.J. Watt noticed what he said about Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott missing games due to injury and had a very pointed tweet. Micah Parsons noticed it and reposted it. And I'm a firm believer that Micah should have held out, that because he's there, and I don't want to get too deep into the CBA weeds, a player has much more leverage if he doesn't show up than if he shows up and thinks about leaving. We'll leave it at that. That's true. So once you're there, pendulum swings to the team. And I think what they're going to do, Rich, they're going to lowball him. And whatever the last best offer is before week one, it's going to be less than it would have been if he had held out. He's going to have to ask himself, do I take this deal that is less than what I could have gotten? Or does he play for $24 million this year? It's 8 times what he made last year. Does he play for that? And do they kick the can to next year? Because the Cowboys don't act until the clock is in the process of striking 12. By him showing up, and even if he holds in and doesn't practice during training camp or the preseason, a time will come to grab your helmet and go get ready to play, like it did for Roquan Smith when he did a hold-in with the Bears a few years ago. Eventually, we're not going to get a deal done. You're here. You need to work. I think that's what's going to happen. I think right now my prediction would be no new deal for Micah Parsons unless he takes less than, no new deal, and they figure it all out next year.
Interesting. All right, that's one to put on the board and put a pin in. What do you think about the Terry McLaurin scenario here for the Commanders, Mike?
Well, when you talk to people about does Terry McLaurin need a new contract, the easy answer is yes. He's making $15 million or so this year. The market has shot north of 40. Does he land north of 30, between 30 and 35, Garrett Wilson-ish? You can make the argument, yes, but that's the problem. You got to get the two circles of the Venn diagram to kiss, and so far they haven't. And I think Terry McLaurin looks at this and says, hey, this is my last best chance to get paid. They have 2 more years with Jaden Daniels on his slotted rookie deal, which is going to be peanuts in comparison to what he's making after the 2026 season, and he's eligible for a second contract. I'll take mine now. Give me mine now. And when Deebo Samuel comes through the door making more money than the guy who's been there through the hard times and now the front end of the good times, I can understand why McLaurin is pushing for more than whatever they're offering. I know Adam Peters, the GM of the team, talked about it today. They're being hopeful. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what they're willing to pay. And beyond the average per year, because there are ways to play games with it to pump it up, the structure it's signing is critical. How many years are going to be fully guaranteed? How many years are guaranteed is a practical matter. That's never part of the initial storm of tweets when a deal gets done, but the structure is critical to how good or bad a deal really is.
And then Trey Hendrickson. I go back and forth about, am I being unfair to a Bengals franchise that did find the money for Joe Burrow, right? That did put a sponsor's name on the building to pay Joe Stadium pretty much, right? To make sure that they're keeping Burrow. They did get Higgins and Chase under long-term contracts, right? They did keep them together. They haven't lost them. I'm just wondering if I'm being unfair to think that this Hendrickson thing, along with Shamar Stewart as well, is emblematic of the Bengals haven't got it all out of their system. Mike, what do you think?
And I don't think they have. Look, they paid Joe Burrow market value because they had to. But with Jamar Chase, I think he could have held out for more. He could have squeezed them for more than what he got. Still a great deal, but I think he could have done more than what he got. T. Higgins, when you look at his deal, they took advantage of the fact that he grew up a Bengals fan and wanted to stay in Cincinnati. He, I think, would have been better off playing under the franchise tag for a second year. He would have had a guaranteed shot at free agency next year. They got lucky that those guys didn't push for every last penny. Now, Hendrickson is pushing, relatively speaking, for more. And I think he wants Max Crosby money. He's not trying to catch TJ Watt. He's not trying to catch Myles Garrett. But $35.5 million per year new money when the guy's due to make 16, that's a huge raise. I had heard months ago that they offered him 28 in new money. Shefty reported earlier today that the structure is an issue, 1 year guaranteed, not 3 years, either straight or as a practical matter guaranteed at signing. That's a big part of it for a guy on the wrong side of 30. So they are being stubborn. And here's the thing, and I made this point a couple of months ago, and this isn't a shot at Trey Hendrickson. It's just an acknowledgement of how the Bengals are. The Bengals don't care. When Carson Palmer was done with the Bengals, they didn't care. They said, stay home. We'll gladly keep your money. He will become this year's Hassan Reddick, staying away for training camp, racking up non-waivable fines, getting into the regular season, giving up game checks unless they find a way to do a deal. But the Bengals, of all the teams out there that will become weak-kneed because of a holdout, the Bengals are the last ones to do it, because I firmly believe, Rich, and this trickles over to Shamar Stewart as well, it's not about money, it's about power. And it's about reminding the players who's in charge. And we'll do without you, Trey Hendrickson, you, Shamar Stewart, you, Carson Palmer. We'll do without if we can preserve our ability to let everybody know who's boss. I feel like that is the core of what the Bengals are all about. And if their fans are fine with it, well, okay, have fun.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Brown did call what's going on with Shamar Stewart foolishness. And he did basically say, like, why should I pay him if he's in jail? If he winds up in jail.
But he wouldn't be paying if he's in jail. Rich, he wouldn't be paying if he's in jail. But this is here it is in a nutshell.
Yes.
They have had language in their contracts that would trigger a default of remaining guaranteed money. Okay? They've had that language in there for years. They put the same language in the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins deal. Same language that they've had. Same language Amarius Mims got last year as the 18th overall pick. Same language. Now for Shamar Stewart, we want to change it. We want to change it. And this is basic negotiation. If you're going to make a unilateral change to a key term in a contract and you're going to offer me nothing to go along with it, what are we doing? You got to offer me something. And the fact that they did it, the old language with Higgins and with Chase, and now they want to jam the new language onto Stewart. This is an interesting thing to watch if they would sign Hendrickson. Does he get the old language? Does he get the prison insurance that some are now calling it, that Chase and Higgins and Mims and all the other players that have had that term in their deal gotten? Or does he get the new one crammed on him too? Again, Rich, for me, it's about power. It's about, I think, Shamar Stewart not signing the participation agreement and showing up for offseason workouts. And I think they're just trying to send a message to a guy who dared to stand up for himself, and they're not going to bend. And that's the problem. They're not giving him any opening. They're not looking for a win-win. They're just going to stand firm until he buckles.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.